Can a single person start an LLC? What about, do you need a separate LLC for every state you go in? I'm Wesley Henderson. I'm a business attorney located in Charleston, South Carolina. Today I'm here answering those questions and many others about your LLCs. Stick around.
How does an LLC work?
Great question. An LLC works by separating you from the business. So basically it protects your personal assets. So if something goes wrong, the LLC itself is the one who is doing business. So even if you're a single member, you are operating on behalf of the LLC. So it becomes a separate kind of ABC LLC. So that's who gets sued, but it's also who enters the contracts. So it separates your business entirely from you personally. The benefit is if something goes wrong, your personal assets like your home, cars, jewelry, furniture, checking accounts, investments, all that is separate and out of the business. There's also some tax advantages.
Does the LLC need to have the title LLC in its title?
Yeah, so most states require that you put, ABC, or we'll say drafted legal, comma, LLC. The reason you need to do this is because you have to inform the other parties that it is in fact an LLC. So if you maybe use a DBA, you still want on your contracts to say, drafted legal, comma, LLC, then doing business as whatever it is. So your formal LLC name does need to have LLC in it. Different states have different requirements. Sometimes it can say limited liability company or different variations of that. But the answer is yes, it does need to have LLC in your formal LLC name.
What's the difference between DBA and LLC?
A DBA is just doing business as. It provides no liability protection, meaning you are still, so Wesley Henderson, if I do business as drafted legal, I'm still getting sued personally because I don't actually have an LLC. Now, you can have an LLC that has a DBA and still get the liability protection. The key is you got to make sure that you have the LLC. If you don't, then you're just using a name, but you're still exposed liability-wise. So they're different, but they can also be used together.
Should you put your LLC on your website?
Yes, you should, because you got to make sure that your LLC is protecting you. So I want you to put it on your website and definitely in all your contracts. So what you don't want to have happen is someone to say, hey, I didn't know you had an LLC. You need to point to the fact that the LLC is on the website and be able to point to it. The contract is the most important if you're contracting with clients. You want to be able to point to the word to where your LLC is listed.
Do you need a different LLC for each different business?
So this one is a judgment call. If you have lots of businesses, you're probably looking more towards getting specific customized legal advice from a lawyer, but here's the pros and cons of it for you. So let's say you have 4 businesses wrapped into one LLC. If anything happens with one business, then all 4 of those are available to be sued and those assets taken. So think of rental property. Someone gets injured at one rental property. If that happens at one, they have access to all the other 3. Same thing with any business. So when you get an LLC, if you separate them, then the liability protects you personally, but also protects between the different businesses. So, you get more liability coverage by having the LLCs separate for each business. Usually, if they're a different type of business, you should separate them anyway because it's cleaner for your books and gives you that liability protection.
Can you use your personal name for the LLC and still get sued?
That's a good question. And if it's your personal name on an LLC and it's on all the contracts, you still would have a good argument that LLC, as long as you signed it correctly as a member of the LLC, is the one that entered the agreement and the one that could get sued. I would probably stay away from it just because anything gray becomes, a longer dispute. So you just want to be super clear to avoid any unnecessary disputes or problems. So if you can avoid it, I would say avoid it. If not, or you already have one, then just make sure when you sign your agreement, you sign it as a member of the LLC because, it's the same name. So if I'm signing Wesley Henderson LLC and then Wesley Henderson, there's a pretty good argument on the other side that I'm signing personally. I want to sign Wesley Henderson, comma, member of the LLC. Really, everyone needs to do that. You always need to be signing on behalf of your LLC and not in an individual capacity.
Do I still need a trademark if I have my business name as an LLC?
Ooh, good question. People get this wrong a lot, so listen up. You get no protection over your name from an LLC. As far as the Secretary of State's concerned, you could be a number for all they care. It's just what they call you. You get no rights to that name. It doesn't mean anything. If you see someone else with it, all it does is show that someone else is trying to use the name. But using an LLC gives you zero trademark rights. To get trademark rights, you need to file a federal trademark through the USPTO. It's totally separate. So don't think that just because you went and got an LLC name that now you're in the clear to owning your trademark or your brand. You still need to make sure that you're going and getting that protection.
Can a single person start an LLC?
Absolutely. So it's called a single member LLC. A lot of people think that it doesn't provide you coverage, but it does. So if I'm the single owner, again, we use drafted legal, then I would file an LLC and I would fill out an operating agreement that says Wesley Henderson, 100% owner. You always want to fill it out because it makes sure that you're going through those formalities. But yes, you can be a single member LLC.
Can an LLC have employees?
Yeah, LLC definitely can have employees, and that's, really where you want businesses to lead to. So the LLC again becomes a separate entity. You own it, and then that LLC is actually hiring the employees. So that LLC is making all the agreements, doing all the business, signing the leases, and hiring the employees.
Can an LLC change its business name?
Yeah, an LLC can change its business name. This is different from each state, but you go through some filing process to change your name. It can be a little bit annoying with the IRS because it's hard to get them to change your EIN, but you can, and your accountant can usually do it when you file taxes at the end of the year. But you basically go through a similar filing process as starting an LLC to begin with, and you amend it so that you change its name. Another option would be getting a DBA, so keep that LLC, but using a different name, or dissolving that LLC and just starting new with a new LLC.
What happens if an LLC member wants to leave?
Good question. Out of our law firm, we deal with this a lot. And what you do is you have to look at the operating agreement and the laws of that state. And you set up a business with another person, go through an operating agreement. Like Drafted Legal has 5 questions we want you to answer. And you talk about what each other are going to do and what happens if someone wants to leave. Otherwise, you kind of end up in this long, drawn-out dispute. So it's something that you need to think about ahead of time. Is it that the member buys out over 5 years, or is it that the member can go silent? It depends on your business. If it requires that other member to work daily, then you probably need someone else to step in and try to, get them bought out. So you just want to think that through before you start the business, really.
What's the difference between a registered agent and a member of an LLC?
Good question. Registered agent is just the person that gets the mail for the LLC. So each state has to have someone that is identified that says, you're going to get the mail. That's part of signing up for an LLC. A lot of companies, you'll see the online companies like LegalZoom, they try to step in and do it, and they'll charge you $300 or $400 a year, but you don't have to use a company. It can be you. The times you don't want to do it would be if you're trying to be anonymous, or maybe you travel a lot. They have no authority over the company at all. They just receive the mail. So it's where you can get reliable mail. You can save money by doing it yourself, but also if someone is using a registered agent, that means you're getting sued, a bunch of junk mail, obviously, or there's some sort of tax problem. So you want to know as quickly as possible.
Can an LLC operate in multiple states?
An LLC is established in the state. So I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. Drafted Legal LLC is in Charleston, South Carolina. If you want to expand operations to other states, you have to get what's called a certificate of authority, so permission. So I need to go ask North Carolina to recognize my LLC. That is usually when you have like a physical presence in that state, not just selling something online. If you need to be protected by another state, you need to get a certificate of authority in that other state, usually some sort of touchstone, physical presence, employees in that state, something like that.
What do I need after filing an LLC to make sure I'm protected?
Oh, good question. So it's not just hit the button, file LLC. There are a few formalities and some things you need to make sure you get right. First would be make sure you get an operating agreement. Even if it's a single member LLC, you still want to get an operating agreement to show that you're the only owner. You definitely want to, if it's more than one owner, say who owns what. You also want to, and this is more best practices, not specifically required, but get a separate business bank account and get an EIN. So that EIN then replaces your social security number. So it now becomes your business tax number. So you don't have to give out your social security number anymore, and everything is then separate with that business. So you've got the LLC, the operating agreement, the EIN, you take that and you get a new bank account, and then you want to make sure you're signing everything properly. So you're signing as a member. So Drafted Legal LLC, I'm signing Wesley, comma, member.
What are the best ways to file an LLC?
So when filing an LLC, you got several options. One, you can hire a lawyer. It's obviously the best, highest quality option, but also the most expensive option. And there are alternatives that can still get it done for you. Two is doing it yourself. You know, the pros and cons are it's obviously super inexpensive. You just pay the government fee, but then you kind of don't know if you've done it right. Third option is something like Drafted Legal, where a company registers it for you. We try to take pride in making sure that you know that it's done correctly. You get an operating agreement, you get videos on how to set up the bank account and this or that. That one stays within your budget, short of being a lawyer, but someone's holding your hand to make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's.